7 strong negotiable pointers which will help you to do much more effective sales. What are those 7 pointers? The first one coming to you. So everything is negotiable means majority of the time one can manage to achieve these desires by getting into the sounding board. Sounding board means is basically trying to do a lot of research work. You need to also practice as to how would you present yourself, right? Presenting yourself is in the form of, let's say, mock sessions. Do a rehearsals as to how would you introduce yourself, how would you go about introducing your product or your solutions to them, how would you be taking care of the objections, and all that is what we are talking about. And hence, if all this is not done in the form of a homework, maybe everything is negotiable, you may not be able to reach that particular stage. So work on this, something called everything is negotiable. 1. Know your want. Sometimes it could be the first meeting, and hence you need to know as to what do you expect from the first meeting. But let's say if it is the second or the third meeting, it's time that you need to find out what should be the ideal outcome of that particular meeting. There is a tendency of the customers to not divulge, not to share any information to you. But it's your responsibility to probe it. And hence it's important that you need to know as to what is that you should be expecting from this particular second or the third meeting. You may realize that the client did show an interest in the first instance, but somewhere after the second or the third meeting, the client has gone about saying, I don't need this. You need to work on connecting those dots, making sure that how this negative situation becomes positive for you. So knowing the want is very, very crucial here, right? The third, try and make sure that it's always a win-win scenario. Never think that it's only me who's supposed to be winning, right? Unless and until you do not look at all the solutions from the client's perspective, you may not find the client coming and wanting to do business with you. So create a situation which is more of a win-win, very conducive one. Ensure that there's the right sort of an agenda is set itself. Show the client that you have a great intent. You have a great, authentic, and a very genuine, honest intent to support or work with them, help them. And hence, if this is in place, then you will realize that you are always going beyond their expected demands. You are always working towards making the client happier enough. So, if this is there, then you have by default created a win-win scenario for yourself. Always treat the entire sales process as a game. There is a tendency that we are human beings and we are bound to get emotional, especially given the fact when we are working extensively on the lead front and we realize that it's taking a relatively long time, we do get emotionally carried away. But honestly speaking, by being emotional on a particular lead actually weakens you. Internally, it will weaken your mental state. So it's important that you need to know that how do we play this game. A good gamer, a good video gamer exactly knows how he has to play the game so that he reaches the destination, right? Now, similarly, in the sales process also, it's important that you need to know what could be those areas which we have to really do a little bit of a fine-tuning to make sure that the sales happens to you. So this is what it is. So learning and understanding helps you to win always. And learning here means is situational learnings will help you to understand as to how do you articulate things and then make the sales closure happening faster for you, right? Undoubtedly, you need to believe in yourself. A lot of times you would probably come across in your business your salesman telling that, sir, I have already spoken to that person and they have given me an assurance that definitely they will give business to us. Well, it's a good positive state of mind, which is good. But somewhere or the other, nobody is sure. Nobody is dead sure until you get the final order. Nobody is sure until you get the final advance coming into your company. Now, believe in yourself would mean is that while you are connecting with the client, while you are interacting with them, the client gives you plenty amount of triggers, insights as to whether this particular deal will get struck or not. According to me, if I have to do sales and whenever I have done sales, I've always believed my own instincts. Now, instincts gives me a great understanding whether this will happen or not. Why? Because I'm reading the situation correctly. So, unless and until you do not validate your own situations, probably reaching out to a conclusion that whether this will happen certainly is always going to be a little challenge. So believing in yourself, your own instincts will help you to understand whether this lead will get closed or not. That's what it means here. And of course, many times you may have to probably show your demonstration in the form of being innocent, but certainly not being ignorant. Innocence always makes sure that you have a certain room to play, but ignorant probably kills the position for yourself. Especially when you are interacting with the CEOs of the companies, when you are interacting with the decision makers, you cannot go and teach them how to do business. In my profession, let's say if I'm in a consultant and when I go and talk to the clients, I don't teach them how to do their business. Why? Because the fact is they're already doing business. But while doing business, they do come across certain challenges. Now that's where I say that maybe I have the ability to help you in terms of addressing these challenges. And when I start addressing those challenges, they believe that yes, this gentleman can help me even making my business better. And hence probably he's better than me in terms of running the business. Now that is what we are trying to say here. Being innocent is fine, but being ignorant can always damage the situation. To make sure that it comes in your favor, always work on this particular method called that try and have a conversation which is in the form of an 80-20 ratio. 80% of the time, if your customer speaks to you, there's all possibility you can see faster closure happening. 80% of the time, if the client is giving you answers, you can see faster closure happening too. But how do we make sure that these 80% happens? Yes, you need to be smart enough in terms of throwing questions at them. Questions which provokes your client to speak. Questions which makes the client talk about their actual grey situations. Right? Now, if you can throw these specific questions to them, the client will speak. And the more the client speaks, you are in a better state to understand them better. Now, based on this, you could always go about mapping your product or the services and making sure that whatever is the client is asking for has that in your particular product. Now, that's how you find a win-win sort of a situation. The client suddenly realizes that, oh, this is a product which I was actually looking forward, and there this gentleman is there who can help me out, and hence you can see a faster closure happening down. So make sure that whenever you are conversing with your client, rather than talking more about your product or your services, do find out as to why do they need the product? What makes them to consider you as a potential vendor? Why are they really eager to work with you? Is their situation completely desperate? Now, if it is really so, how soon would they be taking decisions to buy your product? Now, these are all such strong, provoking questions which one must ask for to a client to find out whether this particular deal will get closed or not. So that's why I said it's important that you work on something called an 80-20 ratio and make sure things go your way itself, right? And yes, in case if the client says, yes, I want to work with you, trust me, rather than being happy, I would feel is that I should go one step further to ask him, what makes you to say to work with us? Why did you choose us? If you know this, it becomes easier for you to share these credentials with your subsequent client, right? But in case if they are not, if they don't want to work with you, you should also know the reason as to why they don't want to work with you. Majority of the time, client will not divulge this. They will not share it. They may probably refrain from saying this to you. But having said and done, it's a good responsibility of a good sales guy to make sure and find out the actual reason as to why a client is buying from you and why they do not want to buy from you.